What's going on, everybody? I'm back with another Call of Duty Warzone video today, and this is a follow up to my previous video on Warzone for beginners. So, this is gonna add a little bit more content to that video. So, again, this type of tutorial or these tips are more for people who have never played Warzone or who have even never played Battle Royale before. So those of you who are looking for a little bit more in depth in terms of strategy and loadout types of guns you should use, go to. There's a lot of other content out there that are more suited for this. So again, there's more. This is all of this is for beginners. So some things that I want to follow up with is how to level up your guns and how to basically make sure that you are able to compete with other players. So now, if you don't have the game itself, let's just say you haven't played Call of Duty Modern Warfare, you weren't even a multiplayer person. Now you're starting to play Warzone. Obviously, all your guns are going to be low level. You're not going to be able to level them up right away, or you're not going to be able to use a lot of the attachments that you see on other videos. So, what do you do? Well, you can do one of two things. First is buy the game. I know that kind of sucks, to just buy the game. But right now, I think after a year or so with the new Call of Duty Black Ops coming out, like you should probably be able to get the actual game for pretty cheap. Like if probably at even half off if possible. And when you get the game, what it opens up is basically the multiplayer. And within the multiplayer, there is two maps that help you level up your guns very quickly. And that's the Shoot House and Shipment. So these two very small maps are 6v6 and where they have a multitude of different objectives like domination, just regular TDM and all that stuff. But basically it's very high paced, a lot of action, and you're able to get a lot of kills with your guns here. So, if you have even just decent average aim or talent, you should be able to get at least 10 kills every map, if not more. And, if you throw on any kind of XP double bonus, kind of tokens, then you should be able to even get double that, obviously. So, as long as you're able, and that's generally the fastest way. Like you can literally level up a gun from level 1 to level 60 in a day in just a matter of like 2 to 3 hours, depending on how consistent you're playing. If you take too many breaks, obviously it's gonna make it a little longer. But if you were just to play a couple hours straight, you can level that sucker up real quick, especially when you add on the tokens. But let's say you don't want to pay for the game, or you just can't afford it. So what can you do? So the other thing you can do right now is play Plunder within the Warzone maps. And Plunder is a type of battle royale where basically the whole point is to get as much money as you can. So obviously when you do this, you're going to be ignoring the main objective. The good thing about playing Plunder is that you come back as much as you want. So if you get killed, you just come straight back and you continue playing the game. So you don't have to worry about the main objective. What you do instead is you go for a lot of the contracts around the map. So go for the recons, the supply runs, and the scavengers on the map, because those and you mainly want to go for those because you don't want to go for necessarily the bounties, because well, then you have to engage other players and you're more likely to die. When you die, you have like a 20-second time in between when you die and come back. So you're just wasting time in those 20 seconds in between. Now, you can just go the route of just, going around killing people, if you don't even want to do the main objective. If you are, pretty decent player, that will help level up your guns too. But let's just say you don't even want to deal with that. You just want to level up your guns and not worry about other people. Then doing the contracts is going to be your main kind of way of leveling up your guns. So next, I want to talk about communication. So one thing that you absolutely need in Warzone is good communication, and that means either a good headset or a good mic, or a combo of the two. Because for you to enable to effectively communicate with your team and for them to communicate with you, arguably, you need a good mic and need to be able to call out, enemies when you see them. Make sure you're marking them correctly, making sure that you're calling out just random things, Uh, even though there is a marking ability within the game, like you can mark items, you can mark places you want to go, you can mark enemies. A lot of the communication is still related to the character that's talking, and sometimes you might want to convey a different message. Say like, oh, you see someone within a building, but you can't mark the enemy, but you want to mark the building. Well, then you can mark it, but people don't know what you're marking it for, because usually the character will say something like, oh, I'm on the move, or like, I'm heading towards that direction, but you're really not heading towards there. You're just marking it for the sake of making sure letting your team know that there's an enemy there. So you want to be able to communicate with them. It's like, oh, hey, I'm marking this because, I think I saw someone in there, so be careful, right? And just be able, and a lot of times your teammates are going to be able to help you, and you're going to be able to help your teammates, even if you're dead. Because if you have on headphones, you can hear, a lot of footsteps and whatnot. So if you hear something your teammate doesn't, you can be like, oh, hey, someone's behind you, or someone's to your right, someone's to your left, above you, or whatever. And you hearing those things can help them out as well, even if you're not actively playing. So having good communication is key. Now, if you're playing on console, I think for PS4, even the Bluetooth headset that you can buy for PS4, that's perfectly fine. For Xbox, I think there are a few, decent headsets out there that you can buy that can be attached to this. You don't need something super expensive like a Turtle Beach or like $150, $200 headset. You can get something $50, $30, $40 that can just, provide the good enough quality. Just make sure that you're able to just be able to communicate. It doesn't pick up too much background noise. Sometimes some people, they don't realize that they breathe heavily, or they don't realize that they have too much background noise. You can hear people yelling at them, or like there's just too much stuff. So making sure that you just get a decent headset is going to be key there. The next is also how you set up your controller or your keyboard and mouse. So one thing you want to take notice is that when you set up the game, don't take the default setup as kind of like, the only setup. When you go into the game, look at the settings and look at the controllers is set up. And you can, now for controller, you can't reassign necessary buttons. They only have preset types of, button makeup. So a lot of people use tactical because they're able to crouch and go prone with the right stick instead of having a melee. So for controller, you can set it up the way you want it to. For keyboard and mouse, now if you're on PC, you can customize it even more. So for example, for me, I've completely changed out what button I have to push for armor, in terms of what button was to bring up the tactical map, and even marking people. All those I've completely changed so that it's on the left-hand side of my keyboard. The next thing I want to talk about is drop area. So I kind of touched upon this a little bit in my first video, but I want to touch upon it a little bit more here, where you want to drop into, there's certain areas within Warzone that are going to be a lot more active than others. So really popular areas are going to be like the Promenade, the Superstore, downtown, and like military base, farmland, the Gulag. Anywhere there's kind of always a lot of contracts, a vehicle, or contracts surrounding a buy station. That's generally going to be a very, very hot area because, one, there's a ton of contracts to do, so you can pick up a lot of items and get money quickly. And also, by being near a buy station means the second you get enough money to get a loadout, you can just go straight to that buy station. You don't have to travel very far for it. So just kind of be sure to, whenever you drop, if you don't want to get into action right away, well, don't drop in those really hot areas where there's going to be a lot more people, like Superstore. Superstore is always super busy because within Superstore itself, there's a lot of money and there's a lot of gear that you can pick up. So if you're a talented enough player with a good enough team, you could potentially take out everyone else going to Superstore, or at least have them take each other out, and then you pick off the stragglers, and then you can loot the rest of Superstore and then get your loadout really quickly. However, that's gonna be a bit of a bargain because so many people go there. For myself and me and my friends, we usually like to go to airport, which is kind of a hot or not type of place. Sometimes it's completely empty and we can pick up everything within airport ourselves. We do have to run around a little bit more, but it's generally pretty quiet even when there are people around. I mean, since we know the area so much, we're able to pick up all the guns, or at least we are able to understand where to pick up guns and where to hide and everything. So the more you're familiar with a certain place, the better it is. Also be aware of just like, again, something I mentioned in the last video is that scavenger, the contract, is very, very popular because it's so easy to do. You're gonna want to make sure that so anywhere on the map that there's a scavenger contract, a lot of people are gonna be going for it, especially if it's near a buy station. So just FYI, when you're dropping down, just kind of look around you every once in a while to make sure that, like, oh, how many people are trying to go for this, so that you are kind of ready for a gunfight the second you land. Or maybe you even want to drop into another house first or another building, pick up a gun so that you're a little bit more advantageous, maybe some armor, and then come out fighting before you just go straight for the contract. Sometimes if you're going in with a group of people, what you want to do is like have one or two guys just go straight for the contract while you and another teammate go pick up some guns, and that way you can kind of back them up real quick. So let's say two of you go, one of you goes for the contract, three of you go for guns, and that way the second they pick up the contract, even though they die, you still, as a team, you still get the contract. But since so many people were going for it, the second the contract is gone, they're like, oh crap, now what do I do? I should probably just go loot now. But by the time they get into that mode, you and the rest of your team are already more stocked up on weapons, so you can take out the rest of those guys. So that's a little bit more tactical in terms of how you want to pick up the contracts and whatnot, just to make sure. Again, a really good contract to always pick up in the beginning are bounties, just because so many people are dying left and right. The second they fall down, because they either get shot out of the air, or maybe they just land in an area that's a lot of people. So if they die quickly, from a hot area, it's also advantageous for you because you get money. That's also one of the reasons why we go to airports so much, because when we pick up bounties there, the bounty is usually located either in Storage Town, Superstore, or in the hangars right next to the airport, and usually those are pretty hot areas. So generally, I will say, it's not 100%, but I would say at least 60% of the time when we pick up bounty, someone else completes it for us, so we just kind of get it automatically. And even when people pick up a bounty and they come and they mark one of us as their target, they will often get picked off by one of the other teams that are around them because it's such a hot area. So in those cases, then you get bounty averted and you still get money. So those are also good things to just kind of think about. Next thing I'm going to talk about is vehicles. So vehicles are all around the map, and you get anywhere between an ATV, kind of like some another off-road vehicle, an SUV, a truck, and a helicopter. So these items, one thing you want to be careful about with some of these items is that it's going to be a lot easier for you going around the map. But whenever you hop into a car, and if you don't have the ghost perk on, basically it marks the vehicle red, and you'll show up on other people's mini maps. So something to be aware of. So when you're driving by and relatively, might be people there, they're going to be able to see you coming, and they're going to start, shooting at you. They're going to start chucking grenades or whatever. Like, they're going to try to kill you because you're kind of like a sitting target at that point. So what you always want to do is, if you can find a trophy, what you'll see a lot of people do is they prop these on top of the vehicles or somewhere inside the vehicle, And what these suckers do is that they will stop at least 3 explosives from detonating around you. So grenades, even support grenades, or like supportive, like, you know, flashbangs or stun grenades, they'll pretty much completely negate those. Even missiles are negated. So if someone has an RPG or like even a javelin, when those things get near the trophy will completely negate them. Now, it'll only stop 3 of them. So if someone has like 4 rockets, you're kind of screwed. But generally, they're not going to be able to pop off 4 rockets if you're trying to run away from them. You know, by the time they reload, they probably maybe get off 2, and that's even if they remotely get one near you anyways. So, but, you know, a lot of people like to chuck C4s at cars because it's a one-hit kill and it'll just blow up the car. But when you have a trophy on top of it, completely negates the C4, and you can, you know, if you want to, you can run right over them, or you can, you know, pop out of the vehicle and strategically take them out, whatever. But it's always a good idea to have a trophy. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't get into a vehicle if you don't have one. Sometimes you just kind of have to grab one real quick and just get somewhere. But if you can find a trophy, then it's generally in your best interest to grab it first and then put it on the vehicle. Lastly, I want to talk about is building call out. So this kind of goes back with comms. But a lot of the buildings within Call of Duty, so they use a lot of copy and paste type of buildings within certain areas. Like there's going to be police stations, there's going to be a fast food joint, there's going to be a car dealership, there's going to be banks, there's going to be certain houses, there's going to be certain apartment buildings that's just going to be very kind of ubiquitous across the map. And what you want to be able to do is be able to call out the right building whenever you see enemies. You know, sometimes what you see a lot of times is people going, oh yeah, I see an enemy, it's over there, it's over there. Everyone else is like, where the heck is over there? Like, we don't know where you're looking, dude. Like, this isn't real life where I can see you like gesture a hand or something. You know, don't just say over there. You have to call out and be like, oh yeah, it's in the brown tall building at the top, at the ceiling, there's a sniper, you know, near the letters or something like that. You know, like you have to be able to call it out, or like even just put a pin mark. If you're just, you know, putting a ping mark on there, it's like, oh, look at like green, look at gold or whatever. Look at my blue pin mark. It's like right up there. So being able to identify those is going to be to your advantage. So, you know, just say, oh yeah, 2 people just landed on top of the police station. And if everyone else knows what the police station looks like, it's like, okay, I know exactly where that is. I'll be aware of it, and I'll make sure to go up there and be a little bit more, be a little bit more wary about it. So those things are going to be very advantageous to you as a player, because now you're just better at callouts, right? Identifying things, being able to tell your teams more exact information. The more precise you can be with your team, the better it is, because the last thing you want, like one time I saw this one clip of basically a guy was like staring into a forest and they're shooting people, and like their teammates is like, oh shoot, the guy, he's by the tree, he's like, dude, there's like 20 trees in front of me, where do you want me to shoot at, you know? And they're like, the middle one, and they're like, all right, well, there's still 20 trees, so I'm not gonna count 10, you know, from left or right. It's like you have to put on a marker or ping something, and it was just really funny, because it was just like, what do you want me to do about it? So communication, that's going to be key. Knowing what your call outs are, that's going to be key. Understanding what the buildings are, knowing what things are called, you know, even if you don't know what the common name is within the game, you can even just use colors, right? Just like, oh, the color that looks like just kind of blue next to this building. Generally, people will like get a good understanding of like where what you're talking about, and if you throw a ping on it, then even better. Then they know exactly what you're talking about. All right. Anyways, so these are just a bit more tips and tricks for you guys, for you beginners, to kind of get more of the hang of. And the more you get used to the game, the better you'll be. It's gonna be a little bit frustrating in the beginning. Trust me, I know what it feels like, because And when I first started playing Warzone, I'm like, why is this any fun? Like, I'm just going to go back to multiplayer after a few times. But the fun part is really playing with my friends. And once you realize you're getting better and better at the game, that's really is going to be at a point when you can get a lot more pleasure out of it. So hopefully these tips help. Please, if you have any questions about the game, please let me know. Put your questions at the bottom, and I'll try my best to answer it. If you would like to see more videos, please like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more. Thanks, guys. Have a good one out there. Stay safe, and keep yourselves healthy.